Hello, my name is Julia Rome, and I would like to share with you how I learned of the Baha'i Faith and how I eventually became a Baha'i. My story takes place in my home state, North Carolina. It's as far back as I can remember. I remember my parents taking my siblings and I to the Methodist Church. And this was in Matthews, North Carolina. And I love going to church. And when I'd go visit my grandparents up in the mountains of North Carolina, I would go with them to church. I would go with my grandmother to the Methodist church, and I'd go with my grandfather to the Baptist church. And I started realizing, well, there's another denomination. And then down the street in my town, Matthews, there was my best friend, Linda, and she went to the Catholic church. And I got to go with her to Mass. And that was very interesting and fun for me. And then when I was 9 years old, my family, we moved to Asheville, North Carolina. And we attended the church on Church Street in the Methodist church there. And my best friend in Asheville, when we moved there, was a young girl named Elaine Barton. And Elaine was Jewish. So I got to go to the synagogue with her and her family. And that was really fun and interesting. And I loved Elaine. But I had heard a minister, a preacher, saying that you had to be a Christian in order to go to heaven. And I remember as a child, that really bothered me, that Elaine was going to go to hell and her family were going to go to hell. I thought, that just doesn't seem like what God would do. And they were wonderful people. So I started questioning, what is heaven and hell and different religions. And I was becoming aware of other religions now. So then, as a child, I remember too, also an important part of that childhood was singing in church the song that goes, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in its sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. That song really stuck with me. And I thought, it's interesting because at church, we're all white people. There was one older couple that was Black, but everybody in the church was white. And that really bothered me. And I had learned about prejudice and segregation and saw it a lot in my town. And I thought, well, on Sunday, we should all be coming together. That's when we worship together. And so these things really affected me. And on the street that our church was on, there was a Methodist. We were Methodist. Over here was Presbyterian. Down the street was a Episcopal church, and way down the street was a Black church. And I thought, if we're all Christians, why are we so separate? Why are we not all worshiping together? And I even remember as a child coming out of church and hearing people say, we have more cars in our parking lot than the Presbyterians do. And that bothered me. I thought, what is this competition? So I had wonderful years in my Methodist church. I was very active in the United Methodist Youth Fellowship group. I loved Jesus. I loved church. But these were things that bothered me, and I didn't even want to proselytize. I remember that was one evening that the youth were to go out and tell people to become Christians, and I didn't do that. But when I went off to college, I went to East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, and I decided I can't call myself a Methodist. I don't even feel like I can call myself a Christian. And so I decided I'm just going to call myself a believer in God. So I decided I was going to search in this town for a church where maybe that it would answer these questions I had. So I went to many churches, and I loved the Black church, but it was all Black people. And I wanted to be with Blacks and whites worshiping together. So one day in 1974, November, I had a wonderful thing happen to me, and that was I had a professor at school. I was taking a class called storytelling, and the professor gave us an assignment. She said, now I want you to go home, go to your class, go to your dorm, and come up with a story. Either you can go to the library and find a children's book and tell it, or you can just make up your own story. So I walked back to the dorm after looking at all the books in the library, and none of them really sticking out, but I loved them all. But I didn't know what I was going to do. So I sat down on the curb and I started thinking. And all of a sudden, the story started coming to me. Woo, woo, woo. It's just coming. And I was excited. And I ran up to my dorm and I started writing the story down. I said, okay, this is the story I'm going to tell in class. And so the next day I went to class and I'm telling the story. And I'd like to share it with you. It's called The Richest Children of the World. And the story goes like this. So several years into the future, the story takes place. And it's a strange story, but it goes like this. There is a world war that breaks out. And all the United Nations says send 2 children from every nation and their greatest teacher from that country. We'll send every country to have these children on this, to live on an island during this period while the war is going on. So every nation sends their 2 best students and their teacher to the island. But there's one rule at this island, and this is the rule, that you are not allowed to speak to people who don't speak your language. You stay with your teacher and your other student, but don't really intermix. So the World War gets really bad, and they are not able to send the supplies, the food, to the children and to the teachers. And so the teachers start fighting each other over the little food they have, and they end up killing each other, leaving all these children on this island. And they start playing together. They start creating their own language. The children that know how to fish teach the other children how to fish. They learn to gather food, the water, and they start really having a wonderful time together. And then this man appears on the island. He has a long white beard and a white turban, and he comes and he tells them about God. He talks to them about love, all people, loving all people, and how important it is for the children to love each other. And the children love this man, and the man loves the children, and this man can just come and go. He appears and disappears. But the children, when he comes, they just love him. They give him the best bed of leaves to sleep on. They feed him. And so they have this wonderful relationship. And then the World War ends, and all the parents are coming back to this island to get their children. And then they see these children playing with each other, and they've created this language, and they are very upset. They've been fighting these people, and now their children have been playing and they're enjoying, happy together. And then this man appears with this long white beard and a white turban. And he says to the parents, your children cannot go back and build your nations, your governments, but they have learned the most important lesson, and that is to love all people. That is why they are the richest children of the world. They've learned to love all people. And then one of the parents said, well, who are you? To the man. And I'm thinking in my mind, who is this? It's got to be Jesus. It's Jesus. But then I'm thinking, no, this isn't Jesus. He's not that old. He doesn't have one. Yeah, it's not Jesus. Well, who is this? And I don't really even know what I'm going to say when I'm telling the story. But then I just say, when they ask him, who are you? He says, I am from God. And the story ends. So after the parents take the children, the story ends there. Then I had my teacher, Ms. Johnson, came up to me after class and said, would you like to go to a Baha'i gathering in my home? And I said, Baha'i? I'm sorry, I've never heard of Baha'i. And she said, well, your story has a lot of teachings that the Baha'i faith has. And I thought to myself, well, I'm searching. I've been to some Zen retreats. I've been to many synagogues, and I've been to different places. Why not? And so I thought, this is going to be weird because Ms. Johnson has all these beads on, a mini skirt on, white go-go boots. I thought, but anyway, I thought, okay, yes, I'd like to go, Ms. Johnson. So I went to her home. I walked in the door, and inside there were blacks and whites. There were people who were illiterate and educated, all worshiping God together. And then they started telling me the Baha'i principles. That we believe that there is only one God. We call him Allah, we call him Great Spirit, but there is really only one God. I said, yes. And then they said, well, we believe that there is only one religion, that religion has come to different places and times. And I said, yes, yay, that was what I was looking for. And then they said, well, we believe that we need to rid ourselves of prejudices and really see the human race as one family. And I said, yes, I was very, very happy. And then they started telling me all the other principles, the equality of men and women, the investigation of truth. And I'm going, oh my gosh, maybe these people can read my mind, because this is what I'd already come to believe. So I started thinking, maybe they're reading my mind. And so I thought, well, this is really interesting. So I left that night fairly feeling that I was a Baha'i, but I went to, a few nights later, I went to another home, and in that home there was a picture of this man with the long white beard and a white turban. And I said, that is who is in my story. That's that's him. And the lady said, well, this is a picture of the son of Baha'u'llah. His name is Abdul Baha. So it was very, very exciting, but I didn't realize so much about Abdul Baha. But as the years passed, I became very, very grateful for that. And I write in my journal, I've always, since then, I've wrote in my journal to Abdul Baha. So that was a night that, a moment that was very special. And then after I left that, I continued to go to Baha'i gatherings, and I was still very active in my church. I went on a mission trip to Puerto Rico to help build a church. But at the same time, I was telling family, friends, everybody about the Baha'i faith, expecting them to be as excited as I was. And my grandmother, who I truly, truly was connected to, she thought I was going to go to hell and was very worried about me. So I went to my Methodist, the Wesley Center at East Carolina, and went to talk to the minister. And I said, you know, I think I really want to be a Baha'i. And he surprised me, and he said, well, maybe that's your pathway. Maybe you should. So 1 week before I was leaving for the Peace Corps, I had been planning to go into the Peace Corps since 5th grade. 1 week before I was going to the Peace Corps, I decided I really want to be a Baha'i. I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving my friends. I can be who I really truly feel in my heart, and that is to be a Baha'i. So I signed my declaration card on June the 6th, 1977. And I left the next week for Palau, which is an island in the South Pacific Ocean, and it's part of Micronesia. It's south of Japan, and it's north of New Guinea and east of the Philippines. And I went to this island and thinking that, oh, there's not going to be any Baha'is there. I mean, I didn't become a Baha'i or hear the faith. I didn't hear of it until when I was about 17. Actually, I'd heard of it from the Stills and Crofts album, The Year of Sunday, because I remember saying the name Baha'u'llah. But anyway, I decided, so here I was, a Baha'i in the Palau, and very happy because there were many people who not only knew the faith, but they were Baha'is. And then I went to the Philippines after serving my 2 years in Palau. I went to Baha'i travel teaching to the Philippines. And in the Philippines, I got to travel with a Filipino woman and 2 Persian men and myself. And we went throughout the villages of Philippines, and it was just so much love that everybody that I met, even though we spoke different language, such different culture, I felt they were really my family. So that's how I just felt so happy to find the Baha'i faith, where it gives so much hope and believes so much in the oneness of humanity. So I just want to thank you all for this time to listen, and I want and hope that you'll tell your stories too, because everybody has a story. So thank you very much.